In this video, I am testing head-to-head the Asus Zenbook S16 OLED with 32 gigs of RAM and the Intel AI9 HX 370 versus my on-the-go machine that I have used for a couple of years now for my video editing needs when either at conferences like CES or traveling for, the Samsung event I did earlier last year. This is the Apple MacBook Air 15. This has 8 gigs of RAM and a 512 SSD, and this is the M2. Now, you might be thinking, Ben, the M3 has been out for a while, and the M4 is most likely coming out soon. Why on earth are you testing the M2? Because I am doing this as a personal experiment to see if the Asus Zenbook S16 OLED can replace my MacBook Air. I'm not testing the latest and the greatest. I'm not telling you, oh, go buy the newest thing. I'm testing what I have in my studio and seeing if I can make this upgrade. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm not only going to test my workflow, which is, 6K BRAW, but I'm going to test Sony A7S III footage. I'm going to test a bunch of different footages, codecs. I'm going to test H.264, H.265. I'm going to be testing 120 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 50 frames per second. I'm going to test red footage, and I'm going to see the different playback and drop frames that I experience while testing these laptops. Now, I'm going to have to do it with this camera view because I don't have two plugs to input into the HDMI and then put them into the actual display mode. So just bear with me. I'll be reading off the results, but I want you to see live what it's like to edit on this footage. Okay, of course, if you are interested in either of these laptops, you can check the live pricing in the description below if you click those links. I will get a commission, but at no extra cost to you. But of course, that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. So I always want to throw that out there. Again, links will be in the description below. All right. First that we are testing is H.264, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the 30 frames per second. This is the Sony footage. Let me just triple verify that that is the correct footage I'm currently testing. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the media properties. And looks like we have 10-bit 4.422. Oh, it's always hard to find this. All right, we're just going to, H.264. All right, good. H.264 on both screens. Drop frame indicator is on, and we're going to do full quality for both of these laptops. And let's go ahead and click play. All right, we're plugged in. We're unplugged from the charger here. For the Apple device, it's just kind of running on its self-optimization mode. So basically what we have there is, whatever mode that it normally comes into, that's what we're going to be doing. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to update. All right, it looks like for the Asus Zenbook, check the drop frames here. Oh, come on. Sometimes it doesn't want to show me the drop frames. It's very frustrating. It's kind of finicky sometimes. Let's try this. 9 drop frames in the first 47 seconds. 526 drop frames in the first 35 seconds. Okay, first 40 seconds. Let's check. First 45 seconds, 744 drop frames for the MacBook Air. So right now, as we're sitting, the Asus Zenbook S16 OLED is handling this footage much better than my MacBook Pro. You can see my MacBook Pro is completely stalled versus the Asus Zenbook S16 OLED running perfectly fine. And this is going to be on balanced mode. That's what it's actually set to. I said it's a balanced mode. Device settings, if I'm not mistaken, we're on balanced mode right now. Oh, sorry. Full speed. Full speed mode. But there's no fan noise. If I put my ear underneath, the fan is running, but you can barely hear it. So it's on full speed mode, but you can't even hear the fan running on the device. We're at 40 seconds in with 1 drop frame. So as it sits right now, I would be a fool to keep running on the MacBook Air M2 with 8 gigs of RAM if I was shooting Sony H.264 422. footage. So, all right, that's good to know. Let's go ahead and test some other footage here. Let's go and test I think I'm going to try and test. It's the, yeah, here we go. 50 frames per second. We're going to change the sequence setting. We're going to switch over to 50 frames per second. This is H.265 footage from the Sony a7S III. Thank you to TechNotice for sending over this footage. He's a gentleman and a scholar for doing this for us. And we're going to be testing, let's see how many frames we dropped in a minute. In a minute and 34 seconds, only one drop frame out of the Zenbook S16 OLED. So if you're somebody who's been using the previous iteration of the MacBook Air, the M2 version, and you're deciding, well, is Windows faster? Well, according to this test so far for H.264, it is faster. And yes, this is live. I'm glad you can't tell. That means I'm doing a decent job. I can see your comments right now. Okay, next thing we're going to do is H.265 at 50 frames per second. Now, as I'm getting this footage in, I'm going to do a little pre-roll ad here from the Asus ProArt. I'll be right back. And I'm going to be running the H.265
This
test.
video is brought to you by the Asus ProArt P16, the flagship creator laptop from Asus that provides on-the-go workstation performance within a beautiful and durable military-tested all-aluminum chassis, outfitted with a pen-compatible 4K OLED Corning glass display that is durable and color accurate. It weighs 4 pounds and is just over a ½ an inch thick, capable of all-day battery life for productivity tasks, and fitted with the Asus dial to streamline your workflow, providing access to your most commonly used tools. Equipped with the AMD Ryzen AI 9 CPU, up to 64 gigs of RAM, and an RTX 4060 or 4070, this device is a powerhouse for architecture and 3D modeling work. And trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg when looking at what the Asus ProArt P16 has to offer. Check out my full review content within the playlist linked in the YouTube cards above or in the description below. Thank you so much to Asus ProArt for sponsoring this part of the video.
All right, we are back, and let's show off the test right now for the H.265 footage. This is 50 frames per second, and I'm going to go ahead and click play in the timeline for the S16 OLED. I already clicked play in the timeline for the MacBook Air, and it looks like it's a bit smoother, but not by much. At 45 seconds in, we have 851 dropped frames. And so looking at the two, let's go over here, check out the S16 OLED. We're going to be checking it 20 seconds in. Oh, there it goes. 20 seconds in, 27. Oh, come on. All right, 30 seconds in, 30 seconds. Come on, there we go. 65 drop frames versus a minute in. We're looking at 1,191 drop frames for the MacBook Air. My goodness, guys, what have I been doing? I should have been taking the Zenbook S16 OLED along with me for all of these events. Now, in regards to battery life, that's something that I do really appreciate, the battery life on my MacBook Pro. Oh my word, it's getting so jumpy. My MacBook Pro is like slowing down. Now, some may consider this an unfair advantage, and I would totally agree. I'm comparing my 8 gig M2 MacBook Air to this 32 gig of RAM AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX. Right, CPU. However, this is like a personal test, and I just wanted to bring you guys in on this personal test. So the one that I would recommend if you're considering the MacBook Air, I consider the MacBook Air M3 with, say, 16 or 24 gigs of RAM. And that could have a very, very substantial effect on improving your playback speed. But just the test that I'm running for my own situation, I wanted to just bring you guys in on this and not test alone. All right, let's go ahead and jump back over here. I'm not even going to test 120 frames per second because I was testing the PX13 and the P16 yesterday, was it? And they were dropping tons and tons of frames. These don't have dedicated GPUs, and so it'll be a fool's errand to even try and test those. I'm not even going to waste our time. I'm going to jump over to BRAW right now and check the BRAW. Come on, show me the drop frames after 2 minutes. It's like so finicky. There we go. 174 drop frames in 2 minutes. And in 3 minutes on the MacBook Air, 3,289. So it's almost, I think it's nearly a 10x, maybe a 15x difference in drop frames. Okay, the next thing I want to do is jump on over and we're going to try 6K BRAW. Let's save that and close this out. Save. All right, so 6K BRAW. That's what we're going to be testing now. Let's go ahead and open this up. 8K BRAW. 6K BRAW. Here we go. All right, so now, whoop, what happened? There we go. Okay. Whoops. Here we go. All right, pulling in some footage. 6K BRAW coming your way. Thanks for hanging with me. If you cannot tell, this is definitely live now. All right, so let's see some comments and questions. So I would have no idea. G14, do you know? Okay, no questions that relate to this video that I'm making right now, as far as I can tell. Waiting for real tests of the new G14 model. Yeah, me and you both. I can't wait to test out the new G14 with 50 series and the new AMD chipsets. Those are going to be super, super interesting. All right, so we have 6K BRAW loaded up on the MacBook Air. Okay. All right, it's loading up now on the S16 OLED. And I'm going to go ahead and play full quality. Now, again, you can always bump down to fourth or half quality. And I honestly noticed when I'm on the go, I am usually editing on eighth quality or less. So I'll run that test in just a minute, but it's honestly pretty fun to see if both of these can handle full quality BRAW. So far, the MacBook Air absolutely can't. I mean, it's just dropping frames left and right. In the first 20 seconds, we're at 623 drop frames. So let's go ahead and drop it all the way down to eighth quality. I think that's usually where I edit, maybe even 16th on the go. And let's see here. All right, so eighth quality, you can see there, green indicator, no drop frames at eighth quality, 6K BRAW. So this is an area where you can kind of get away with this. Again, I'll even run back and test the H.264 footage to see if I can get it to play back smoothly at eighth quality. That'd be a good test. So let's just go back. Since now we've seen that 6K BRAW is at eighth quality, this is still optimizing, which is pretty annoying, but that's just part of it. And let's pull up Premiere Pro, and I'm going to go ahead and see if we can edit. See if we can load up this. There we go. Perfect. All right, perfect. We're back at it. All right, so now we're looking at H.265. We're going to bump down to eighth quality and see if we get smooth playback. H.265 on the MacBook Air 15 M2, 8 gigs of RAM. Oh, wow. Immediately dropping frames. But only 7 right off the bat there. Gosh, this is still loading. All right, hang in there. All right. Still loading. Let's check back here. 7 drop frames. Okay, so if you're shooting H.265, say 50 frames per second or 30 frames per second, you could get away with 8th quality on the MacBook Air 15 M2 with 8 gigs of RAM. Now, as you saw, we had full quality on the S16 OLED, and it played back smooth. So the playback is going to be far superior on the S16 OLED. Now, we started this stream how long ago? Let's see. Started this stream 15 minutes ago, and I had 45% battery life on the S16 OLED. I now have 34%. So in just 15 minutes on full speed, that's the mode it's on full speed, I've burned around 10% battery. Now, I was at 100% battery on the MacBook Air. And no, I was at like 98%. And now it's down to 93%. So we've burned about 5 to 6% battery life on the MacBook Air in those 15 minutes. So it's still showing better power efficiency, but, we would have to drop this one down to say, quiet mode, but it's already quiet. That's the thing. There's really no modes to edit on the MacBook Air. So as far as battery is concerned, I'm still leaning towards the MacBook Air as being a little bit more battery efficient for heavy tasks such as this. But that's just my own experience. What do you like more, Windows or Mac? It depends on the use case. For a desktop tower, I prefer Windows. for on the go, I really enjoyed my MacBook Air, especially when I'm traveling. It just makes like, I don't know, just simple things like texting with family while I'm on the road, like, and I'm working and editing. It syncs up with, I use an iPhone. It syncs up with the iPhone. There's just like some simple things that I like about the Mac OS better, but I've used both for so long that I don't consider one better. I just consider them two different tools in my toolbox. That's me personally. I think both are good operating systems in their own regard. There's some like shortcuts that I really like on Mac OS, and then there's some shortcuts that I really like on Windows. And then I'm kind of annoyed they don't both work for each other. So it really just depends. Okay, we're loaded up here. 6K BRAW, full quality playback, full speed mode on the Asus Zenbook S16 OLED. We're dropping frames on full quality. Good news for the MacBook Air. Let's see, let's see what we got here. 271 drop frames in the first 15 seconds. Okay, so this will not be usable. Let's go down to half quality. Half quality, 6K BRAW. So far, no drop frames. Still running H.265 over here, 50 frames per second. Only 30 drop frames on 8th quality at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So this handles 8th quality, H.265, 50 frames per second quite well. This is the MacBook Air. Okay. My biggest issue with okay. Anybody have any other questions while I'm running through this? I'm just kind of, like I said, just jumping on. Wanted to share this with you guys as I'm running my own test. So far, it looks like if I was going to do BRAW on the go, on the road, at a lower quality level, or a higher quality level, I could edit it. Now, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and switch to whisper mode. That way I could say, get like the best battery life possible on the device. And let's see, half quality. Let's just do this. Let's go to 8th quality. No, let's keep it at half. Let's see what happens when I play back at half. So playing back at half quality on whisper mode for the S16 OLED. No drop frame, 6K BRAW. So the next test that I would have to conduct would be literally to set these two computers side by side for like, I don't know, 5-6 hours straight and let them loop 6K BRAW and see which one comes out on top. That's something I have not done. But right off the bat, we're now down to 31% on battery life. We started this video at 45%, and this video has been running for about 18 minutes. So that just shows you how quickly the battery drains compared to the MacBook Air. We started off at about 97, 98% battery life, and we're down to 92% battery life. So about 5 to 7% of battery life consumption versus 15+% battery life consumption out of the Asus Zenbook S16 OLED. Now, I'm sure I could turn the screen down a little bit. That might help. There's half brightness, but just using these at both on their full brightness, that's the battery drain we've seen. So I would say the MacBook Air has about twice the efficiency, but it doesn't have as much performance as the Zenbook OLED. So if that helps with any thoughts there. I only edit 1080p. Well, you're going to edit smoother. You can edit on whisper mode and have no problems, because for the Asus Zenbook OLED, I'm on whisper mode, half quality, 6K BRAW footage. I've only dropped 8 frames in 1 minute and 40 seconds. Now, let's say I wanted to export this footage. So let me go ahead and jump into my, let me go ahead and jump into the export times for the Zenbook S16 OLED. Let's see how long it takes to export S16 OLED 6K footage. Okay, so for the Zenbook OLED, if we're exporting 6K footage, we clearly see it can play back well in the timeline. A 9-minute clip, this 9-minute clip that we're editing, this project here, takes about 24 minutes to export, which is on par with the MacBook Air. We're going to see about the same export time. So you're going to get smoother editing, but you're still going to see better battery life from my test that I'm seeing so far, just sitting here in this time that I'm sitting here with you, you're going to get better power efficiency still out of the MacBook Air. And so for me, that makes a big difference when being on the road, when editing on an airplane. I'm down to 28% on the Zenbook OLED. It's dropped very quickly comparatively to the MacBook Air. And that's been, for me, one of the big decision makers when deciding, do I stay with the MacBook Air or do I move over to something like the Zenbook OLED? It's really close to being a replacement, but I care more for power efficiency than being able to, edit on, say, half or, 8th or 16th quality. I don't need it to be full quality. And the export times are very close to being the same. And so as I stand here, I personally would still be using the MacBook Air. However, I would have purchased it with 16 or 24 gigs of RAM to give me better multitasking. And honestly, it wouldn't probably be as hard on the system, because when it's using the system so intensely, it's going to really fatigue the battery. So it might even get better battery life with 16 or 24 gigs of RAM, especially with the M3. There was a few developments where with the M3, the efficiency was slightly improved. And now we're looking towards M4. Now we are launching, I didn't do anything. They are launching the AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus and Max Pro. Those chips might be the answer to matching the efficiency of the MacBook Air and the performance that we're looking for. So keep an eye out on the channel. I'm going to do more of these like real world tests. I'm actually having a ton of fun doing these. I've got this third camera now that really just it adds to my setup and makes it more easier for me to kind of engage with y'all and come in to these setups. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I've tried to answer as many questions as I can, show you kind of the experience and the mental game that I'm thinking through choosing, an Apple MacBook Air versus an Asus on the go. And right now, I still see for me that I'm sticking with the MacBook Air, but the HP Zenbook Ultra is coming out with the AMD Ryzen AI Max Pro. I might have even said that wrong, but you guys know what chip I'm talking about. And that might be the one that proves to me it's possible to replace this. Links in the description if you're interested in buying either of these models. Helps out my channel, keeps it alive, gives me a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. Appreciate it when y'all use those links. And just thank you so much for hanging on to this live stream for me. More videos, of course, coming your way. Tons more videos on my channel comparing laptops and choosing laptops for creative professionals. I'll see you guys on the next video.